I'm Balloon Josh, and welcome to BalloonADay, where I make amazing balloons and you try and guess what I'm making. So while I'm making this balloon for today, I figured I would tell you a little story. So this has to do with what I'm making, so in the story, basically every time I do an event somewhere, there's always one thing that is like the popular thing at that party. Does that make sense? So like sometimes I'll be doing an event and like everyone wants a bow and arrow, right? So just make so many bow and arrows. Sometimes there'll be an event where everybody wants a unicorn. That's a really popular one. Or sometimes I'll do an event where everybody wants a lightsaber that makes noise. Or sometimes I'll do an event where everybody wants a dinosaur, right? And so over the course of doing this for 32 years, you know, I kind of can gauge, usually, right, by showing up at the event. I can usually get a pretty good feeling of what are the popular designs going to be that day, right? The top designs for girls are normally Unicorn, Elsa, Little Mermaid. Boys are normally like Spider-Man, Dinosaur, and whatever they can hit people with. But sometimes I do get surprised. And so, like I said, usually at an event there will be one thing that once I make one of those, everybody wants that thing. And usually it's something like a butterfly. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Everyone here wants a butterfly. Perfectly makes sense. And then sometimes it's a request that I don't quite understand. And to this day, for this particular one I'm making right now, I don't understand why this was requested. But I was doing balloons at a very fancy country club here in Houston. And at this very fancy country club, and when I say very fancy, you probably, I don't know what you have in your mind as far as like what you consider fancy. But when I say fancy country club, I mean people that are playing like 6 figures a year to be a part of this country club. So, fancy country club. And so I'm doing balloons at this fancy country club, and this girl, probably, if I were to guess, probably around 8, asked me to make what I'm making for you right now. And she asked me to make it, and I'm like, huh, that's weird. That's not a usual request. That is not something that I get asked to make all the time. But I'm always up for a challenge, so I was like, sure, I got you. I can absolutely make that for you. Little did I know that after I made it for her, all of her friends were going to want the same thing. And so I ended up making not just one, not just 2, but I ended up making like 12 of these at this event. And so I had 12 kids, mostly girls. There was a couple boys who got it, but it was mostly girls. And I had 12 kids running around with this. And I had parents looking at me very oddly, like, why are you making this for our children? And I had to look at them and be like, it was not my choice to make this for your children. Your children asked me to make this. So, like I said, it's always a surprise what the popular thing at the event is going to be. But at this one particular fancy country club, it was feet. I had a girl ask me to make her a foot, and then I ended up having to make a bunch of feet. So I had kids running around with balloon feet. And if you didn't know, today is actually Measure Your Feet Day. So go measure your feet.